From LPM,
Louisville Public Media.
Support for this podcast comes from LG&E, reminding you not to get spooked this Halloween. If you smell rotten eggs, hear a hissing sound, or see dead plants outside near other healthy ones, it could be a gas leak. If you notice any of these signs, leave the area immediately. Then call 911 and LG&E at 502-589-1444. Find more gas safety tips at lge-ku.com/gas safety.
You may not know what they're saying, but you understand when something is wrong. Beyfortus, nirsevimab ALIP, is the first and only long-acting preventative antibody that gives babies the RSV antibodies they lack. Beyfortus is a prescription medicine used to help prevent serious lung disease caused by RSV or respiratory syncytial virus in babies under age 1 born during or entering their first RSV season, and children up to 24 months who remain at risk of severe RSV disease through their second RSV season. Your baby shouldn't receive Beyfortus if they have a history of serious allergic reactions to Beyfortus, nirsevimab ALIP, or any of its ingredients. Tell your baby's doctor about any medicines they're taking and all their medical conditions, including bleeding or bruising problems. Serious allergic reactions have happened. Get medical help right away if your child has any of the following signs or symptoms of a serious allergic reaction, such as swelling of the face, mouth, or tongue, difficulty swallowing or breathing, unresponsiveness, bluish color of skin, lips, or under fingernails, muscle weakness, severe rash, hives, or itching. Most common side effects include rash and pain, swelling, or hardness at their injection site. Individual results may vary. Ask your baby's doctor about Beyfortus. Visit Beyfortus.com or call 1-855-BEYFORTUS.
Welcome to On Track. I'm Aisha Jaffer. In Louisville, access to prenatal and postpartum care is still a challenge for many families. One leader working to close those gaps is Shemika Whiteside, Executive Director of Zora's Cradle. She holds a master's degree in social work from the University of Louisville and has researched maternal health disparities with a focus on Black and Latinx mothers. Through Zora's Cradle, she helps families with milk, diapers, housing assistance, therapy connections, and advocacy. I sat down with Shemika to talk about what led her to start Zora's Cradle and what she sees as the biggest needs in maternal care today. So for people who may not know, what does Zora's Cradle provide on a daily basis?
So we provide access to community-based resources and mental health services for people who are pregnant and postpartum, and that's any stage. You know, this is not necessarily just for moms. This is anyone. This is for family members who may be impacted by the pregnancy, but just diapers, wipes, access to supplies, housing vouchers, all things related to pregnancy. I tell people, you know, if we don't have them personally, we connect with those that do.
So is it like, it's also like pre-pregnancy
Yes.
to pregnancy to post-pregnancy,
Yeah.
the whole kind of,
Yes.
the whole cycle.
The whole spectrum. That's us.
That's beautiful. Well, can you take me back to the moment that set you on the path for this type of work?
Absolutely. So I am not originally from here. I am from Springfield, Illinois, and I came to Louisville to go to University of Louisville, go Cards. And at the time, I had a 5-year-old and I was pregnant. Not being from Louisville, was trying to secure resources, trying to find housing and trying to find, WIC and just all the things. And, not being from here, I'm like, well, I can't really find them because I'm not from here. And it seemed like people kind of operated in a silo. But mind you, that was 11 years ago. I'm going on 12 years ago. And at the time, mind you, I was pregnant, but noticed that I was, really feeling my baby. Like when I say I can feel her nails and everything, I'm like, at, 5.5, 6 months, I shouldn't be feeling this. People are like, well, it can happen. I have a 5-year-old, so I kind of know how, I know all pregnancies are not the same, but I did notice that something was wrong, but went to triage about 3 times. And each time, I don't feel like they did a thorough examination or were quickly, sending me home. But the third time I went, there was a nurse who came, of course, to check on me. Shout out to those nurses who came to check on me. And we went to the hospital and she says, well, you go into triage and I'll park the car and I can come and help advocate for you. Sure. I went into triage and I'm like, hey, I've been here 3 times. Something is really wrong. Like I'm having these really bad contractions. They put this, monitor on my belly to see if there were any kicks. I didn't think they really got my name and all my information. It was very quick. And they're like, we're not really noticing anything. Of course, you've been here before. Just go home. At this time, I'm walking out, and the woman who was with me, I was getting ready to read a D. This is the nurse. And She was like, how are you coming out? And I literally parked a car. You couldn't have had a thorough examination within that amount of time. And she walked back in with me. And Rita was just like, who's in charge? And it just so happened at the time in the emergency unit, my OBGYN, who actually had an appointment the following week. I was going to triage until I could see her. She happened to be the doctor that was walking the floors of the emergency room, and they named who it was. Gigi Gerard. Shout out to Gigi Gerard. Wonderful doctor. But they went and got Gigi, and they kind of tried to stop until Gigi, we checked this and that, whatever. And Rita was like, I've been with her. I've noticed she's closing her eyes. She's having contractions. Something is wrong. And thankfully, Dr. Gigi Gerard was like, well, Shemika says something is wrong. Something is wrong. I'm not a complainer. I'm the person that doesn't want to bother people. So if I'm here this much, something is up. And she said, I didn't want to check my cervix. And no one had. So she goes, I'm going to have you lay back and we're going to check your cervix, see if you're dilated, and come up with a game plan. Because I see, of course, the next day or so anywhere for a follow-up appointment. And she checked and my baby's feet were out. To this day, I've never seen my eyes get so big. And I'm like, you're serious? And she goes, where's your family? And my whole family's in Illinois. They can't get here in time. So she said, I'm going to hit a button and everything's going to happen very quickly. And she hit a button and people were coming in and having me sign consents and really prepping me for this emergency, surgery. And I wasn't ready. I had a sandwich before I went in there. So not a normal emergency C-section. It was a C-section with a T incision because they really had to get her out as well. And she was so small. So they were able to get her out. She lived for about 2 days. But because so many things were ignored each time I went, when we're in the situation now. So I was very, frustrated by that. Had all this breast milk and didn't have anyone to give my breast milk to. So I was pumping. The milk bank, who is based out of Indianapolis, kudos to them, reached out to me and asked if I wanted to be a bereavement donor, and I was. So I became a bereavement donor and donated my milk there. But at one point, maybe a few months in, while dropping off some of the milk, there was an organization called Babyology, and they were located on the Dutchman's, but they used to just have breast milk and supplies and what have you. But I was dropping milk off there one day, and then someone said, so how's your baby? And I said, I don't have a baby. And they're like, and you're still donating, and I told them what happened. They said, you're still donating breast milk? How gratifying that you're still helping other people in spite of what happened. It's like, yeah, so that kind of did pump me up. From there, as a social worker, because that's when I got my master's as a social worker, for years, I would try to find resources to kind of help moms that came in and had these needs to navigate those things. And it got to 2020, of course, during, the pandemic, and people really do need those supplies. So I made a post on Facebook saying, in the next 10 years, concerning what happened with me, I would love to really just help moms be connected to all resources so that, even if I can't provide it, I know of all these places and I can connect the moms to them. But I feel like, people, anything that hinders pregnancy, because of course, Kentucky has terrible maternal health outcomes, but if people need diapers, they shouldn't have to have a certain income to get the diapers. They shouldn't have to live in a certain, zip code. If your baby's pooping, I got them. So, doing all those things. And then I created the post. And it kind of became a groundswell. Someone was just like, I can help you set up your Medicaid. And someone was like, I can help you, with space and, all the things. It was like, no, I meant somebody could do it, not me. But kind of overnight from 2020 on, we slowly developed services just really based upon the needs of mamas. And Zora's Cradle, Zora's my baby. So it is her nonprofit, I always tell people, but really just responded, to what those needs were. And we kind of went from there. We started really because I'm a therapist. We started really just with mental health and people can come in and get therapy. And then we tried to do some housing, initially in-person housing, then kind of transitioning just based upon the needs and the cost and all the things to just providing, either referrals or access to housing vouchers that were earmarked for pregnant and postpartum women with the support of the Housing Authority. But, creating a diaper bank, partnering with St. Bernadette's Diaper Bank. And also, I love how the milk bank comes back into play because for a while we had a milk bank when we had a physical space. The milk bank that I donated to ended up helping us set up a milk bank. So people that needed supplemental milk or wanted to donate milk and drop it off, we were a site for a while. I'm hoping to restart that in 2026 as well. But it was just very much it sounds cheesy. If you'll build it, they will come. So I just kind of slowly built it based upon the needs of mamas and dads and caregivers and what they needed because we're out here just trying to save the babies and help rewrite the narrative of maternal mortality in Kentucky. So we're trying to help.
Yeah. First of all, sorry for your loss.
All right.
But what a beautiful
Thank you.
outcome. And it sounds like the community really saw that need
They
with you.
did. I'm like, whoa, like Facebook, shout out to Facebook. I
Yeah.
know people give Zuckerberg a hard time, and it's changing lives. So it really has.
Connecting people in this way, in this community that, like you said, your family wasn't here, but this other kind of family, it sounds like, sort of appeared.
Just showed up. I'm just like,
I don't know. It's so fascinating, so amazing how that all came together. I'm curious. You sort of did walk through this, though, the first steps of making it real. It sounds like the community showed up, but did you face any challenges early on?
Oh, absolutely. So as a social worker, one thing I've learned over time is to consult with experts. When we first got started, I'm like, I'm going to do housing, and we're just going to get some townhouses and we're just going to put mamas in there and it's going to be great. Not necessarily. So one, that was difficult because some of the moms had DV issues. So now, of course, the partner is showing up and he's, kicking in doors and trying to fight and what have you. There was also the piece of that where we had people who had never lived on their own and, didn't, in terms of adult day living skills, cleaning and hygiene and, all those things, didn't have those skills. At the time, it just became very expensive and we were constantly it was really overworking my staff, trying to get people to come in and help with this and hiring more people. I'm like, this is expensive. Let's step all the way back. Let's go to the drawing board because this is not working. And we ended up, of course, partnering with the Louisville Metro Housing Authority, and we thought that a better alternative would be accessing a Section 8 housing voucher. And at the time, we had about 10 earmarked for pregnant postpartum moms who may have had housing insecurity. So these are women who utilize our services, mental health services, some of the life skills things that we did. They work with the community supporters. So really, we're ready to transition into their own, housing. And that was one where we high-fived again. We're like, yes, we're not spending, all the money and people still have access to housing. And one of my favorite stories is we had a young woman who, this is from January of 2024, but we had a woman who was about to give birth. We got her housing maybe 2 weeks before she gave birth. And we were just like high-fiving and we're like, yes, we got this mama housing and she has all the skills. Where's my furniture? Damn. Still not thinking of it. So, of course, we partnered with great organizations such as Happy Home Furniture in Jeffersonville. But it's just really sometimes, in social work, we talk about doing a needs assessment. So that's really been incorporated. Stepping back and seeing everything that you need before doing this, not just saying, we need housing, we're just going to get them a house. No, there's more that needs to go into it. Do they know about the utilities? Do they know about all these things? The costs, just how to maintain it once we step out. So it's definitely been a journey. Initially, I would hate those things, but now it's like, you know what? It's not why is this happening to me? It's what is this trying to teach me? You know what? Maybe we should have looked at this and looked at that and so on and so forth. So learning. I love the learning, but yeah, it's been challenging.
I feel like that feels like life where those things come up that you didn't even think of. Yes. And then you put it together as it goes along.
Yes. And kudos to this client. They ended up delivering the furniture the same day she went into labor.
Oh, wow.
So they were delivering it and she had her aunt had to stay there and then she was being taken to the hospital.
Oh, wow.
Like my staff. It was, memorable. So
like new house when she came back, new baby. There you go. That's kind of a beautiful thing.
Yes.
So since you started Zora's Cradle, what have you seen in terms of community need and what does it take to sustain the services that you provide?
One of the things that is still a community need, no matter how many, not just with Zora's Cradle, but some of the great community partners that are out there is visibility. I feel that it is, visibility and access, those are the two really big ones because there are some great people in the community doing this work, but I can't tell you how many times, and it's heartbreaking, we get an inbox from someone that's like, hey, can you help with diapers? And mind you, we no longer have a physical space. We do everything virtually and we connect or we do pop-ups and so on and so forth. But, the same way people, it's going to sound cheesy, knew about the COVID vaccine because the information was everywhere. The same way you know about a salvation army, the same way those things, I think the same effort should be put into making sure people know where these resources are. So sometimes, of course, I'm, sharing the resources, but all the great people in the community that are doing this work are usually like small nonprofits and people aren't aware of, what's there. I mean, even organizations that have been sustained for a while, even things like Healthy Start, national platforms that you think that everyone knows, but people don't know. And I just think when it comes to visibility, that continues to be, and it'll continue to be a barrier until Kentucky really highlights some of these things. But even accessibility, because let's say you do know where these things are. If I have 3 kids and one on the way, and something isn't on the bus line or it's not open 24/7, or like I said, I've said this in previous interviews, I love community baby showers. However, if I can't get to it, then that's a problem. Or I can't even take all these things. I've seen people have community baby showers and they won like maybe a huge bassinet and a stroller and all these diapers. She can't take that on the bus. You know, it's that. So making sure that people have a way to get to you, or if they can't get to you, you can get to them. Hey, we had some of these things that were left over from the baby shower or this event, or we saw that you tried to reach out to us. Can I get these supplies to you? That's also very difficult. It's great to have these things, but can I get to the people that need them?
Does that happen to be like the main thing that you hear from people who reach out to Zora's Cradle? Is transportation?
Yeah, it's transportation, or some of the great organizations that are doing this work because of staffing and because of funding, they're only open on certain days. So if I work from 9 to 5, how do I get these diapers, or how do I get these wipes, or how do I get, what I need? So definitely some discussions need to be had about accessibility and all those things. So,
and I know you said visibility too. Are there
Yes.
any organizations you want to mention?
Yes. Let's see. Granny's Birth Initiatives, the St. Benedict Church, Healthy Start. Who else? I don't know why my mind is drawing a blank.
That's usually what happens when you get this question. It's a hard question.
But, even
because you don't want to leave anyone out,
And Metro United Way, I want to make sure I include them, because a lot of times, even if there's a smaller nonprofit or someone is doing a pop-up or so on and so forth, if you contact them, they'll let you know, Lifehouse and New Direction, like their organization are doing this work, but it's like, if you don't know, you don't know and you can't get to them.
Right, if you don't know they exist. So on top of founding Zora's Cradle, you also started Perinatal Princess Therapy, where you work as a psychotherapist. Yeah. How does that clinical work connect with what you're doing at Zora's Cradle, and especially when it comes to balancing emotional support alongside the practical things like diapers and milk?
Before I did therapy, for about a decade, I was a case manager at different nonprofits as a contractor, so on and so forth. But the case management brain never turns off. I thought it would go away, but it is not turning off. So when I was just doing psychotherapy before I even transitioned into nonprofits and so on, and even now, sometimes people's stressors when they come in, you may have a mom who may be 24 weeks along and then experiencing pregnancy and so on and so forth. But sometimes a lot of the stressors are environmental. I'm stressed. I have this baby coming on the way. Of course, you refer me to, someone for medication, and, we've talked about the coping skills, but I can't rest because I can't pay my rent, or I can't, my baby doesn't have diapers. My baby doesn't have this. It doesn't have that. So of course I put my case management hat on during a whole therapy session. It's like, you need to call this person. We need to do this. We need to do that. So those things kind of fuse together, because sometimes a lot of the stressors are really things, I feel if I can connect someone with resources, it would really kind of ease their mind and it impacts their mental health. I think those two really go hand in hand. So
yeah, because I can imagine just not having access to resources themselves brings a lot of emotions up.
Yes.
So there's some security in that.
Yes.
Now, I want to ask too, because you have quite an amazing background.
Well, thank you.
How is your academic background in social work, like we've kind of been talking about, and African American studies shaped the way you think about maternal health and advocacy?
Well, one of the things I definitely look at in terms of outcomes, I'm a big outcomes person. I'm just going to use conference, for example. People will do this thing where they'll get up and they may say, we spoke to 100 mothers and, we're having, this issue and that issue and so on and so forth. And I'm always the person that raises my hand and says, how did you get your data? Because I feel that there are certain audiences that are not included that are deeply impacted by some of these things, particularly BIPOC communities as well, and I think not just getting data, are we utilizing different methods? For example, even as a therapist, I've seen surveys that, they're trying to ask about postpartum depression with moms. I have moms I see for therapy now, and I'm like, what I'm seeing is postpartum depression, or I'm seeing some postpartum rage, or I'm seeing this, or I'm seeing that. And someone may say, oh, I'm not depressed because, I smiled the other day and had a good time. And then, of course, I'm like, but you're also mentioning that you're isolating, and it's that. So it's sometimes terms are thrown out, but if I don't know what that term means, are you capturing great data? I think we also need to factor in literacy within all communities, especially in Kentucky, as well. Nationally, they say that, only about 50% of people can read at an 8th grade level. Even with I'll give an example, some of the services that we've had with Zora's Cradle, I didn't ask someone to survey. We've had people, when we had our physical space, where they'd be in the waiting area, and we had 2 women who were staying in a shelter, and the shelters close at a certain time, and they kind of just have to go, do their thing until it's time to come back to the shelter. But one of the comments that I heard people talking about, 2 women of color, they were saying, wouldn't it be great just to have somewhere where I can just kind of hang out and either learn or just eat or just, get off my feet. I'm going to pop any day. I don't want to be walking through the streets of downtown. And from there, we've talked about possibly in the future partnering with other nonprofits to do a clubhouse, but things like that. Sometimes gathering people's needs, you really can't capture in a survey. You can't capture in an interview. Sometimes letting people just freely talk kind of helps you access, access the needs. So I'm very big on how did you get the info? Oh, we slid this survey to 100 people. And it's like, well, who, what backgrounds, what are the demographics? I don't think that's happening. But, of course, when it comes to the Black studies background, the social work background, I'm always trying to look at those things.
Yeah. Well, and, racial disparity is a prevalent issue here in Kentucky. I mean, according to Kentucky's 2023 Maternal Mortality Review report, Black women in the state die at twice the rate of white women from pregnancy-related causes. And I'm just wondering, from your perspective, how do you see those disparities show up in day-to-day care here in Louisville?
I feel that a lot of the trainings when it comes to both microaggressions and discrimination, so on and so forth, I feel like a lot of the trainings and what have you are being geared towards the doctors and physicians and nurses and so on and so forth. I think that's the wrong group of people to be targeting. A lot of that stuff, most of them also get in school, but most of my interactions came from the front lines. Mind you, if someone didn't advocate for me, I couldn't get past triage. So there's that. I have people that don't want to, that I see, in therapy, that only just go if they really have to. They don't go. They don't like going to the hospital because the hospital is like this monster to navigate and trying to get through those things. But yeah, a lot of the frontline people, the clerk at the front desk, the triage person, the person that's just taking my blood pressure, even the receptionist when I'm calling trying to make an appointment, some of the nastiest things have come through their mouths, as well. So it's like, if I'm experiencing this, I'm a whole professional, I can imagine how many other people are experiencing this as well. But I think that those are the people that really need the microaggression training and the racial training. And there's also the assumption that when someone is speaking loudly that they're angry. And I'm like, I'm a whole one of color. My whole family talks loud. I'm not angry as well. We're just a loud family. And it's that. And sometimes people see, before I even say anything, sometimes people see you and they already, have it in their mind how they're going to treat you. Like everyone deserves the same care. I think that when it comes to equity and customer service, those things are not happening. But especially with, mind you, I went to a triage 3 times and I was in and out within 5 minutes. No one looked at me. No one said, hey, this woman keeps coming back. Something must be wrong. I wasn't thoroughly examined. Even when I mentioned the story, them trying to stop the doctor and cover for themselves that quickly. So when it comes to that, the corporation of, doulas and other advocates to kind of help, with that, because someone is navigating this alone and someone's being dismissive to them, especially because of how their skin looks, we've got a problem. But yeah, frontline is always the hardest to get past.
Yeah, because it's like, what would have happened if you didn't have that advocate?
Yes.
And that's a resource, right, as well.
Yes.
Is that something that Zora's Cradle also looks at, and other people in the community, like resources for advocates, for doulas, for things like that?
Yes. I'm always big on connecting people with those. If someone needs something that's higher than what we can even offer, very big on, referring people to doulas. I even took a doula training recently because I'm just like, what encompasses that? And kudos to them, because there's a lot of work that goes into that. But, not just that, but even lactation consultants, because, you have people that have never breastfed. And I think that people assume everyone has a village and everyone doesn't have a village. So, having people that, okay, my baby isn't getting enough milk, but I'm trying to breastfeed him and he's allergic to the formula. And then it's like I'm taking him to a pediatric appointment and Child Protective Services called. When in fact, if I had these resources and I was aware of what's going on, I don't think we'd be, but even that, really, really listening, hey, this woman just had her first baby and she's not starving this kid. It's just, making sure the kid can truly latch on properly would probably prevent all these things.
There's so many layers to this. There's so many things that go into this. It's pretty incredible, the work that you do and the work that together the communities kind of come together to do. I mean, we talked about these gaps in resources, but some of the biggest support for pregnant and postpartum families comes through public policy.
Yes.
Things like Medicaid coverage, paid leave, and access to clinics. Over the last few years, we've seen those policies shift at both the federal and state level.
Yes.
What kind of policy changes do you think would most help the families you work with?
One policy change would be access. I think the length of, a lot of states are implementing this, but I think when it comes to in terms of coverage for access to pregnancy resources, I know there are a lot of people that are like, oh, you can only get these resources maybe for a few months after you give birth, or really just, there's some that just cover the birth. And it's like after that. But for anyone who has either given birth or supported someone that's given birth, especially when it comes to mood disorders, I have moms that are like, I gave birth 9 months ago. Why am I still depressed? Well, postpartum depression can go on for quite some time. Not just that, considering the lack of of mental health resources here in Kentucky. I'm from Illinois. First of all, I don't think that many people say things like shout out to Illinois very often, but shout out to Illinois. So one thing that we have at Illinois that's, pretty ample, and it's in other states, are crisis nurseries. For example, if someone is having a hard time, whether it's my baby is crying and I just need a break, or I just need a few minutes, or I might need to go to a psych hospital because something is really wrong, or even moms who may not have anything related to mental health just need to go somewhere for a while, what have you, want to make sure that their baby is safe, but they may not have a village. In Illinois, there's crisis nurseries. Hey, I think, I might shake this baby. I'm having a really hard time. You don't really see that. I've seen one here, and it was in Lexington. In the past, I've worked at psych hospitals. I've worked at Our Lady of Peace, and we'll have people that'll come in, and something may be wrong, whether it's psychosis or they may have a severe mental health diagnosis and may have gone with other meds, and now, they don't have it. And the first question is, well, I can't come to the hospital because there's nowhere to put my children. And that's a problem. So now people aren't getting the care that they need because there's nowhere to put their baby. If I do have a need, and not just necessarily mental health, it could be substance use. If I need to go to a rehab to be the best mom I can be for, my baby, there should be somewhere for my baby to go.
So that's something in public policy that would be
Yes.
something you'd hope to see.
Yes. People that do it, it's like, there are some small pockets of organizations that are doing things, but that's the thing. It just needs to be something that anyone can access. So policies to make sure that people have access to things. They're covered by their insurance, because I don't want to just get access. That's like, well, good luck on that bill.
Right.
But, access to things, even birthing centers. It's sad that people have to go across the bridge to Indiana if they want, certain birthing resources. Kentucky sometimes is oddly the land that time forgot when it comes to certain things. Other states are light years ahead of us, but hopefully, some policies, change that.
You mentioned, some people are going across the bridge for some of the birthing resources. What are those resources that we're lacking here in the Louisville side?
Birthing centers such as the Tree of Life, they have a lot of educational components, but if someone wants to utilize, midwives, I feel that, if all the things are safe and what have you, people should have the right to do that. And I just don't think that those options are really presented here as well. Even right now, there's only 1 to 2 Black midwives in the state of,
Wow.
Kentucky. And there need to be more for all people of all backgrounds. But I just feel like, I think a lot of things, have been removed as being seen as respected resources. And I think that once we really took those things out of play, of course, now we have all these issues with, maternal mortality since the 80s has doubled, and the number has not gone down. It's actually a crisis, and people just don't talk about it. And it's like, horrible plan, no interventions, repeat. And we just keep on doing these things over and over again. It's the worst movie I've ever seen. 4 thumbs down.
Yeah, I agreed, honestly. I'm glad that we're talking about it now, though.
Yes.
The philosophy at Zora's Cradle is about helping mothers not just survive, but to restore, redeem, and thrive.
Yes.
What does thriving look like for the families you serve?
I want, once women get access to all the resources, I want them to just be pillars in their community, and I'm very big on, each one teaching one, like, hey, I have access to this, and here's what I've learned. Even if it's not connected with a resource, something as simple as emotional regulation for yourself to help your baby, and so on and so forth. But utilizing those resources, I want moms to go out there and just do wonderfully, financially, be healthy parents, and healthy individuals as well. I want people to win. And that's my biggest thing. Not just, we give you some diapers, good luck, girl. I don't, I want you just to continue to just shine, forever once you get out here, and help other mothers shine too, just from what, you've had the experience of. So that's my biggest goal.
Oh, I love that. That's really beautiful. So I know we've talked about a lot of things that you'd like to see change, especially in this world of maternal care. But just to kind of circle back, what do you think is like one of the most important things about maternal care in Louisville that needs to change?
When it comes to different options, I don't think that people have that, at all. When we think of, giving birth, if we want to do it a certain way, I think that options are not presented to people. And not just that, I've had an emergency C-section, and actually I have another child. I'm actually 17 now. Come get him if you want him, people. Eating me out of house and home help. But I think a lot of times, even with that, like birthing options, I was just told, okay, you're going to have a standard, vaginal birth, and not many details went into it. Every time I ask a mom, hey, before you had this C-section, did they just mention that was a thing, to you? Nope. I just know that they said things were going wrong and they wheeled me into a room. No one explained to me what was about to happen. I just think that those conversations, hey, if this, if you decide you don't want to do this, can you do this, or so on and so forth. Let people know what all their options are. I think that people are very quick to get people in and out, because sometimes people go to preterm labor. Let me know at the 25, mark. Hey, here's what it looks like, but here are some other things you can do, as well. Or here are some things that we can bring in, even just the mention of a doula or a lactation person, who is going to be in the room with you? Okay, let's say something happens. Are you interested in having this resource, provided to you? Is there, for myself, I had postpartum depression with my son. It would have been great to even have, clinicians that, hospitals partner with. Hey, would you like, someone to check in on you, after you give birth? We already have, this set up. I just wasn't giving any options. It's like, well, here's what's going to happen, and good luck, so I think that's across the board, whether it's at the hospital or at all different levels. I just don't think that the options are there. Being aware of our options and sharing them, because you have many, I've seen people, I'm like, you had all these people in your room, I didn't know that was a thing. Yeah, just not, they're gatekeeping, and I don't like it.
Yeah, want to know the options. So for those who are listening who want to get involved or who may need your services or other services, I know we talked about and shouted out quite a few, but where should they go?
I always, of course, shout out, Greenie's Birth Initiatives. Of course, they provide local resources.
Could you say that one again?
Yes, Grannies, like grandma,
yeah,
birth initiatives. But, they're definitely, great when it comes to accessing resources. Contacting your St. Bernadette Church, because sometimes people are looking for resources, and especially when it comes to diapers. And of course, that particular website, the St. Bernadette Church website, lists all the places that have these wonderful diaper banks for people that are in need of diaper bank services. I think when it comes to organizations like Healthy Start and so on and so forth, I don't think people are aware. And even the HANDS program that can provide, in-home care to mamas with little ones and make sure they have access to resources, making sure babies are hitting up milestones. Of course, Momology for maternal mental health therapy. There are a lot of individual practitioners, in the city that are doing great work. I don't think that people realize that besides, mental health and resources, there are other things that could support you. There are prescribers that are, wonderful. Kimberly Vilt is an absolutely delightful prescriber when it comes to maternal mental health. She is really good, at her stuff. And in general, I tell people one of the greatest websites that I think is wonderful, and I'm a member of their board here in Kentucky, but Postpartum Support International, for all things related to pregnancy. Postpartum Support International, if you hit up that website or, just Google them, on that website, they have crisis lines, which I think are absolutely wonderful. If you just need to figure out where resources are, you can go on there. They have a helpline that connects you to resources throughout the state of Kentucky and throughout the country. They have a crisis line. A national maternal mental health crisis line. I don't think that people realize there is a national maternal mental health crisis line. So, maybe 2 a.m., maybe 2 p.m., you're like, this baby's driving me crazy, or I'm having anxiety, or I don't feel like my partner is helping me, and I just need to talk to someone. They have therapists and clinicians who are on call, or right away you can call and you can speak with those individuals. And that's for anyone, anywhere. They have some great support groups on there, whether they have support groups that are geared towards Latinx moms and ADHD moms and bipolar moms and moms with postpartum rage and mindfulness, or even breastfeeding before you're done. It just, there's some great virtual, support groups. And I think that this has a great provider, directory, because there are a lot of people that are doing this work that I can see in my head. There's some people I have not even met yet that are really trying to get their voice up, but just resources, support groups, all the things, Postpartum Support International. You can go on there, and on that website, it connects you to all the great people in Kentucky that are doing some of these things that may not, you really think of. So I always tell people that's a great start. That kind of encompasses everything. Even the DONA, DONA.org website for people that are interested in a doula to support them through their birth. Going on there, and seeing some of the great doulas who are, here to support you. Even hospitals like Norton, I know that they're trying to incorporate doulas that are already, on staff with them. And also kudos to March of Dimes. I think that, people overlook them, but March of Dimes is also doing some great work and also connecting with a lot of community partners, trying to make sure that all voices are heard. And them and Metro United Way are two just great organizations where if you're looking for a resource and you can't think of anything, they're just really just the starting points. They can connect you with who you need for all great things, whether it's mental health, housing insecurity, food, clothing, shelter, all the great needs. Just two great organizations that can connect you with whatever it is that you're looking for.
What about if people want to get involved with your organization or get to resources and connected through Zora's Cradle, where can they go?
So on our website, www.zorascradle.org, they can send us a message. We are transitioning to being a virtual platform because we feel that, renting space is expensive, but we're really focusing on making sure, and of course, especially going to 2026 with my board. I have a wonderful board. Shout out to my board of directors. I think that, office spaces and so on and so forth were great, but we have been really diligent about partnering with organizations such as the Up Day Shelter. Up is a wonderful resource as well. Trying to reach out to people that are doing the work, just kind of going in and seeing how we can partner and help them, with those things as well. But people can, send me a message. We are really trying to find some way, especially with everything coming up, creating some online support groups and literacy programs, especially financial literacy for those who are, because babies aren't cheap. That's the thing they don't tell you. That show, The Baby Story, these come on TLC, is really cute. They're holding the babies. But how much does all this cost once I leave, especially during the holiday times? People can partner with us, because we're looking for volunteers, to help with those things. Angel Tree fills up every year through Salvation Army. They are wonderful, but it fills up because the need is so great. But it is, great. We're hoping to meet that need this year with helping people, access, holiday-based services, whether it's helping them, connect with food and so on and so forth. But 2026, we would love volunteers for a few different things. We are hoping to partner with some of the local shelters here. It's going to sound cheesy. I'm just going to say it. So I think that it is great when people are able to access not only resources and housing, but I think we need to make a bigger deal of it. And so step all the way back. In college, like when you move in, there's like the welcome crew. They're the people that are helping you carry your stuff up. And it's like, welcome, we're so glad that you're here and what do you need and so on and so forth. I think the same thing should happen when someone moves into their first place after being homeless or leaving a domestic violence situation. They're pregnant or postpartum. It should be a group of people to welcome you with food, clothing, shelter, cheering, and all those things. What can I do? Oh, this looks great. Can I help you put your wallpaper up? Or can I help you with that? Because it's already hard to move into, a place and not really have, especially if you don't have a village behind you, but really to move into a place and not have those things. But hoping to kick that off, or the organizations do something similar. But I think that, we're getting people housing and being like, good luck, finger guns. Yeah, no, let's make it a big deal because it really is a big deal. These people have come through a lot to become stable. And if I don't feel like, people, have my back or they're rooting for me, it could be swept from under me in a minute, but I just want people to, I'm really working on that. So 2026 is my really big plan, just partner with organizations that we can support people that are transitioning into securing all the resources that they have and making a really big deal out of it because it is a big deal. So people can go on the website. It's really easy to catch on LinkedIn or via email, Shemika.Whiteside@zorascradle.org. But LinkedIn is probably the fastest place to catch me and send me a message as well. Or, because I have a private practice, one that I check constantly is, of course, my email at Perinatal Princess. So people just Google that, or they just send me an email at Shemika@perinatalprincess.com. I will get it. I will get that faster than anything. And I'm not hard to find. Like, if you just Google Shemika Whiteside, like SHE, she, M as in Medicaid, IKA Whiteside. I kid you not, if you just Google me, all different types of ways pop up. So you can find me. I'm not hard to find. I'm just out here in the streets with my tacos. I'm just
jealous. Well, Shemika, thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Thank you for having me.
On Track is produced by Louisville Public Media. Our production team includes Michelle Tyreen Johnson and Laura Ellis, with assistance from Alex Biscardi. Our music is by Coach and Toshiro. Find more at LouisvilleOnTrack.org. I'm Aisha Jaffer. Thanks for listening.
Support comes from Vision Zero. On foot or behind the wheel, safety is a shared responsibility. And Vision Zero Louisville believes 0 roadway fatalities is the only acceptable amount. Their mission is to create safe roads by design, engineering solutions, and education. More information at visionzerolouisville.org.
You may not know what they're saying, but you understand when something is wrong. Beyfortus, nirsevimab ALIP, is the first and only long-acting preventative antibody that gives babies the RSV antibodies they lack. Beyfortus is a prescription medicine used to help prevent serious lung disease caused by RSV or respiratory syncytial virus in babies under age 1, born during or entering their first RSV season, and children up to 24 months who remain at risk of severe RSV disease through their second RSV season. Your baby shouldn't receive Beyfortus if they have a history of serious allergic reactions to Beyfortus, nirsevimab ALIP, or any of its ingredients. Tell your baby's doctor about any medicines they're taking and all their medical conditions, including bleeding or bruising problems. Serious allergic reactions have happened. Get medical help right away if your child has any of the following signs or symptoms of a serious allergic reaction, such as swelling of the face, mouth, or tongue, difficulty swallowing or breathing, unresponsiveness, bluish color of skin, lips, or under fingernails, muscle weakness, severe rash, hives, or itching. Most common side effects include rash and pain, swelling, or hardness at their injection site. Individual results may vary. Ask your baby's doctor about Beyfortus. Visit Beyfortus.com or call 1-855-BEYFORTUS.